days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. 49ers picked up that big win versus Seattle Seahawks. Now it's time to talk about some stock up 49ers. And there's some young players that are rising right now. And a lot of it has to do with 49ers expected young rookies to have to make an impact in year one. And that's exactly what happened in week one of the regular season. Now, was it completely perfect? Absolutely not. You've got to expect some bumps in the road for some of these 49ers young players. But what we saw was guys step up in key moments and make some big plays and compete. So even though it wasn't pretty, you also had times where they made plays and you saw potential of what they could do. I think the key factor is they didn't shy away from the situation. Now, it wasn't just rookies. There was second-year players stepping up and making plays, or even longtime veterans who came in and were expected to make an impact for this 49ers football team, and they did. Or maybe even a coach who you knew things were going to get better, but he took it to another level and just made it a lot better. So this is going to be a fun episode because when you look at the 49ers versus Seahawks, there's a lot to like. There's a lot that's questionable. Maybe you don't like some things. But what we do know is there were some guys who took a step forward. And I think when you're preparing for a 17-game season, that's all you can hope for, is that there's going to be weeks that guys step up and make plays. In the week one of the 49ers regular season, in a interesting week one, almost must-win game, you don't want to call it must-win, but you needed to make sure you got off to a good start in the division, beating the division rival Seattle Seahawks. It was any way you could possibly win, right? It didn't matter how. It didn't matter if it was ugly or pretty or great, as long as you got the victory. But along the way, you could see some of these young guys stepping up and stepping into some key roles. And the 49ers did not disappoint. They started 3 rookies on defense. Marquis Sigle started at free safety. Upton Stout started in nickel. And, of course, they started in the base 4-3. But as soon as nickel came out, he came out there. So he plays 70% of the snaps. And then Mikael Williams at defensive end. And I think that has been a foregone conclusion the whole time. But the fact that Sigle already earned a starting job and he missed all of OTAs, that is going a long way to showing how good this football player could be. And another potential 5th-round gem for the 49ers. It is crazy to think, but you traded away Jordan Mason, and that 5th-rounder you got for Jordan Mason, you used on Marquis Sigle. It could end up paying huge dividends. It looks like it's going to. It's a perfect match for Malik Mustafa. Can't wait for Mustafa to come back. 49ers defense will take even another step forward with some of these young players. So that's what we're doing in this episode. We're talking stock up 49ers, what it meant, how they performed against Seattle, and what it means for their future, and helping the 49ers get over the week 2 competition, which is the Saints and Spencer Rattler. So this is going to be a fun one. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can bet on 49ers versus Saints. Those lines are going to be coming out. There's lots of cool stuff going on with FanDuel player props. If you bet on George Kittle to score the first touchdown, you could have won big. So lots of cool stuff. Check out FanDuel, the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. So I am going to start with a non-rookie because even though we know the rookies were a huge part, and I do want to give them their due, there has been one player that has to emerge out of a shadow that is really, really big. And the question marks were always going to be, did the 49ers make the right decision when they did not secure Dre Greenlaw? And Dre Greenlaw is one of the favorites in 49er land, and he always will be. Dre Greenlaw is a great player. The combination of athleticism and instincts and the hitting and the attitude that he brought was definitely one of the things that got the 49ers over the top in 2019. As soon as they drafted him as a rookie, he stepped in and he really set the mood and the tone of an enforcer next to Fred Warner. And when the 49ers weren't able to bring Drake Greenlaw back, there were real question marks because D. Winters hadn't really hit the way that they were hoping in his first two seasons in the NFL. Now, he had two different defensive coordinators, Steve Wilks and Nick Sorensen. So maybe that somewhat slowed up his progression. But Johnny Hollins has been a constant at linebacker. And now that Robert Saleh was back, we were hopeful. You have a hyper-athletic linebacker who, Robert Saleh, when he puts together defenses, knows how to use linebackers the best possible ways. This was the best opportunity. But then the 49ers drafted Nick Martin, and you had those question marks about what D. Winters is going to do. Well, D. Winters did not disappoint from the very first day at training camp, and he did not disappoint in this football game. He was flying around, he was making plays, and they weren't just tackles, after a catch or 3 yards down the field, but he was making tackles for loss as well. He was coming up and hitting people in the hole. It was great to see from D. Winters. One of my things that I talked about going into this game was D. Winters' ability against, Zach Charbonnet and this running back room, because he had to step up and stop these players in the run game. We did not question D. Winters' ability in the passing game. Over the last 2 years, we had seen it, especially last year when he took over that will linebacker job late in the season. He was over a 70 PFF grade in coverage. He's phenomenal in that area, and that rang true again against Seattle. But where he stepped up was run defense. He stepped up and made some big players. And one of the plays that I think stands out the most is there was a play out at the sideline, and Kenneth Walker makes the catch. He's one-on-one with D. Winters. Last year, there were times D. Winters missed that tackle. He came up out of control, tried to just lower a big hit, lower the boom on him, knock him down. Not this time. He got completely in the right position. He broke it down. He wrapped up. He grabbed cloth, and he made a tackle along the sideline and prevented Kenneth Walker from getting any yards after the catch. Those types of plays go a long way in your defense being able to get off the field on third down. So what we're seeing is the most complete D. Winters that we've seen in San Francisco. And I'm not telling you forget about Drake Greenlaw now that, D. Winters has arrived. He's that guy. He's got a long way to go to continue to kind of elevate himself. But what he's done is he stepped out of the shadow a little bit. He said, hey, okay, I'm not in the shadow of 57. I'm my own guy. I'm 53. This is what I do. And, that saying, Winters is coming, it's true. And he looked really good in his first matchup against a run-heavy football team. And I think that this was a great sign of things to come. Now, D. Winters still has some things he has to overcome. One of those is staying healthy. That has been a little bit of a bugaboo for him over the first two seasons, is he just hadn't been able to stay healthy. Now, I do believe he's done a lot of work to his body. He's done a lot of things to make sure that he's in the best situation to stay healthy all season. And if he can, I think that the 49ers are going to reap the rewards of being able to go with a young guy they drafted and developed that can step in and take over for an absolute stud in Drake Greenlaw. So is he Dre? No. But is he a really good D. Winters? Yes. And I think the 49ers are super excited about that. And in this game, he had 6 tackles, 5 solo tackles, and 2 tackles for loss. That's what I'm talking about. That one of those plays, there was a run on the inside to Kenneth Walker, and he came dashing in and made a huge hit right at the line of scrimmage, maybe even a half yard deep, and he did not give up any ground. It was boom, stick him, and everyone came to help put him on the ground. It was just a phenomenal play. So when you start seeing those TFLs, 2 TFLs in this game and those tackles for loss, those are drive changers. And you look back, even when Bosa made that play on the screen on Jackson Smith and Jigba, you go back and look, guess who else is there? D. Winters. That dude was flashing all game long, except last year he used to flash and not finish. This year he flashed and he finished. And that's going to be one of the big things in the game. You just look at this 49ers team in general. Last year they would flash and not finish games. This year they flashed and they finished. So it's a good thing to see. And D. Winters is a big reason why. Just a phenomenal game on the inside. Now, another sophomore I want to talk about. I'm going to flip it to the other side of the ball, because question marks about him started from the very first time he was drafted. And everyone said, this is too high. This guy doesn't deserve to be here. We would rather have Lad McConkey. This isn't the guy that everyone envisioned going in the first round of the 49ers in the 2024 NFL draft. And of course, I'm talking about Ricky Pearsall. But if Ricky Pearsall didn't just take everything we saw at the end of last season, everything we've seen during training camp in the preseason, and just say, it's all here. I'm ready to roll. And Pearsall alleviated a lot of the concerns about the 49ers wide receiver room. And there's still a lot of concerns. Jawan Jennings is going to go in for his MRI. We'll see what's up with his shoulder. We've got the concerns about George Kittle and his hamstring. Those MRI results, at some point we'll know what's going on with those guys. And the lack of depth has been a real question mark because there is no Brandon Ayuk, right? There is no Demarcus Robinson. And coming into this year, you were looking and it's like, well, okay, Brandon Ayuk when healthy, he's the number one receiver. But right now, Jawan Jennings is number one receiver. Well, it's unquestioned right now with the injury to Jawan Jennings that Ricky Pearsall is the number one receiver. And guess what? When it came time for a number one receiver play, Ricky Pearsall stepped up. And I could say it happened more than once in this football game. But that double move down the sideline, though, it was a really good timing route. Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, the timing of the move by Pearsall, the stop, and then the go, and the Brock Purdy pump fake were completely in tune. And then he lays one out there for Ricky Pearsall, but Pearsall very subtly, very smartly uses a hand to create a little bit of separation for him and the defender and make the play. It was those subtleties. It's that experience that he already displays in just year two to make a play. Give himself enough room on the boundary because that corner's trying to use that boundary as a second defender, but he gave himself enough room with the way he, ran his route, the stick inside, that stop route, get upfield for Brock Purdy to put that over the top. It was a phenomenal route. It was a really good play by Purdy and Pearsall, and we saw that from Pearsall the whole entire game. And he is unquestioned right now as one of the 49ers' key contributors on offense all season because when the 49ers needed things to happen, he was making it happen. And that's what you like to see from a young player. As a guy step up, be able to make these big time plays. And he was targeted 7 times in this game. He had 4 catches for 108 yards. Now, no touchdowns. Now, he should have had a touchdown. That he ran a very nice out route inside the red zone, and the ball got tipped away by Tariq Woolen. And Woolen's got some of the longest arms there is, for a defensive back. The guy is extremely athletic and talented and long, and he made a good play. Now, Brock Purdy probably could have put a little bit more zip on that, and if he does, Ricky Pearsall has a touchdown. But it wasn't for lack of Pearsall running a correct route or getting open. He absolutely cooked Tariq Woolen. He was wide open. The throw was just not quite 100% there. But Pearsall was showing those abilities. And, that 45-yard play down the sideline to kind of get that final drive in position to score a touchdown was exactly what the 49ers needed. But if you go back and you look at drive 1, it was Ricky Pearsall making big-time plays and big-time catches to extend that drive. The 49ers had 2 touchdown drives in this game. They should have had 3, for sure. But Ricky Pearsall has his stamp over both of those drives. The first drive of the game, he's making a couple of catches, getting the ball moved down the field, a couple of big conversions, and he helps a 95-yard touchdown drive to start the game. Then the last drive of the game, he has the biggest catch, that 45-yard catch down the sidelines that puts the 49ers in position for Brock Purdy to eventually find Jake Tunges. But it starts because Ricky Pearsall. And if you look at the eligible players that could catch the ball right then, excuse me, you've got Christian McCaffrey, you've got Ricky Pearsall, and you've got Jake Tunges, MVS, right? Russell Gage. There's the weapons are a little bit new to San Francisco, or they're not exactly your top flight guys. And Ricky Pearsall, everyone knows he's probably the guy that can go, right, you're going to go McCaffrey or Pearsall. And Pearsall was up to the challenge. I thought he just played so good in this game. And I think it just really jumps off that he was just so impactful for so many yards. I mean, 4 for 108 is a phenomenal stat line. And you needed him to step up. And like I said, he should have had a touchdown, but I think that this is a jump off point for Ricky Pearsall. Just next week, he can have more plays. And the week after that, even more. He's formidable. He's going into game plans now. And defenses are going to have to worry about Ricky Pearsall and what he's going to be able to do. So I thought it was a great game for him stepping up. And that's 2 sophomores, that really had big time games for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, next up, I just mentioned him. I got to talk about Jake Tunges. And, during the lead up to training camp, I really felt like the 49ers were devoid of talent at tight end. I felt like you had George Kittle, you had Luke Farrell, and then you had a bunch of dudes that really were fringe NFL players. And as training camp went on and as the preseason went on, I think everyone could tell that I was getting a little bit more sold on Jake Tunges making this roster. I thought that he had showed receiving upside in the preseason games. He was getting more detailed in some of his blocking assignments, showing a little bit of versatility to play the fullback, which he originally made the Chicago Bears a couple years ago as a fullback, and then as a tight end as well. So we were seeing some advantages there. Now, I'm not going to tell you that this game was clean for Jake Tunges. Number one, Jake Tunges had some missed blocks out there. But what I am going to tell you is he made some really good plays catching the football. And that catch that he made on the slant pass, and he shimmied himself across for a first down, that was a great catch. Going low, that proved that he has the hands to be able to catch the football. And then for that last play, that touchdown play, for him to go around Tariq Woolen and make that catch, Brock Purdy threw up a prayer. And Jake Tunges came down with it. It was a very significant play for a young player, and I'm hoping that this could kind of help him build. Now, he wasn't the only tight end, right? George Kittle had a touchdown catch in the very first drive, and too bad that he got hurt. I think Kittle, depending on how long he's out, this was going to be a huge season for George Kittle. He just has been in the best shape of his life. But also Luke Farrell had a really big clutch third down catch where he got absolutely smoked, and he held on to the football. The tight ends for the 49ers in general stood up. And I want to make sure that I give Luke Farrell credit for the blocking, for making that key catch, because this is why they brought him to San Francisco. This is why they wanted to have a tight end that could play the position if something happened to George Kittle. And I thought Luke Farrell did a good job. But I want to give flowers as well to Jake Tunges for when the time mattered and you needed a receiving threat at tight end. Jake Tunges proved to be that. And I think that this is a great thing going forward, because there's a chance George Kittle could be out for a while. And if he is, you've got 2 tight ends now that you feel comfortable. Farrell handling the blocking. He can make a catch here and there if you need him to. It's going to be a possession type tight end, not explosive the way that George Kittle is. But then you've got Jake Tunges as well. That is also a guy that can make catches, that he can do some things offensively, and he's a developing blocker. I think we feel more comfortable about tight end than ever, and it's because those 2 guys played well in this game. A new addition that, definitely stock up for Luke Farrell, and Jake Tunges, who, had the biggest play of his career. His first NFL touchdown comes in a big moment where he helps Brock Purdy and makes a big touchdown catch. I just thought it was phenomenal, and I wanted to go out here and really talk about Jake Tunges and Luke Farrell and what they did in lieu of George Kittle being out. It was just a really good performance from those 2 guys. And it's exciting because, we don't know what's going to happen. It could end up being Braden Willis, gets brought up if something's going on with George Kittle. He's on the 49ers practice squad right now. They could look outside the building, maybe bring back Ross Dwelly, something like that. We don't know. But we do know that the 2 guys that are there, that were tight end 2 and 3, are capable of helping this football team, at least in the short term. And hopefully George Kittle will be back sooner rather than later. So now let's get to one of the guys that I really wanted to talk about. We're going to go flip it to the defensive side of the football and talk about Marquis Sigle. Marquis Sigle is really just an interesting guy because you've seen the talent when you watched him at Kansas State. You've seen a guy that flew around and he made plays, the way he was able to be versatile at safety and step into the box and cover as a dime corner and, cover guys in the slot, the nickel. Like, he could handle all those situations. And then he had a core muscle injury that made him miss OTAs. And everyone talked and they glowed and they raved about the fact that Marquis Sigle was extremely intelligent, football-wise, just off the charts when it came to football knowledge and his ability to pick things up. And then coming out of OTAs, you're thinking to yourself, and I'm sure a lot of people were thinking this, with Sigle being out, what are his odds of actually winning the safety starting job in the training camp in preseason? Not very high. Not when you had brought in Jason Pinnock, number one. Number two, you had Jair Brown, who was a third round pick for your football team. And you brought in guys like Richie Grant. You still had George Odom right before training camp. It looked like the depth chart was going to be too much for Marquis Sigle. And then he started playing in the preseason. And he looked good at training camp when I saw him. But when he started playing in the preseason, he looked like a guided missile flying around and making tackles. And that is ultimately, I believe, what gets him this starting nod is his ability to tackle in space. It is one of the best qualities you can have from a safety, and he's one of the better tackling safeties that I've seen on the 49ers in a while. I mean, this dude flies up and he secures tackles. It is great to see, and he had those moments in this game. He's one-on-one, and he's got to make those tackles, and he did it again. He's got to come up and run fits, and he's got to do some things, and he did it again. So Marquis Sigle stepping up alleviates a lot of pressure. Now, I don't know how it's going to be, if they're going to be able to test him in coverage, if other teams are going to start seeing, some of those mistakes that he made at the end of the preseason creep in again. But they say that Marquis Sigle is one of those guys, if he makes a mistake, he doesn't make it again. Those guys are phenomenal to coach, and they are rarities. Usually it takes a few times them making a mistake, but if he can overcome those, that means he's very self-aware, but he's also one of those guys that can just, put it in their mind and not forget. He's going to continue to elevate. But I love the fact that you've got a guy that makes plays when he comes up and tackles. The 49ers needed that from safety. Jair Brown missed way too many tackles last season, and the 49ers have had guys miss too many tackles in general over the last few years. But Marquis Sigle had 6 tackles, 5 solo tackles. That is very impressive. Anytime you are having solo tackles up there in that range, you're doing a very good job. I mean, just think about it. D. Winters had 5 solo tackles. Fred had 4 solo tackles. Bosa had 6. Those are the guys who led with Marquis Sigle. So that's what he's doing, and he's helping you not allow yak yardage, these plays that, should go for nothing, but they get extra yards. He did not allow that to happen. But he also is a playmaker, because guess what? When the ball came out, when Sam Okuwanu caused a fumble, Marquis Sigle found the ball. And the 49ers need turnovers. They need guys who are going to be able to create turnovers. And Marquis Sigle seems to be a guy that can find the football. So it was a great performance in his first matchup of the season. And it wasn't going to be an easy task. Yes, the offense that they were going against was very familiar. So I think that was really good for the young players. It allowed them to kind of, ease in because they're used to some of the route concepts, used to some of the scheme. And so it made it a little bit easier when it came to reads and concepts and where things are going to go as far as the football. But they could have targeted him and went after him a lot, and they weren't able to do it. He did a pretty good job. He held up. And I think this is great going forward. I think right now getting him out there and having him make an impact is huge. And the fact that he was ready to start is going to be huge for the 49ers moving forward. Now, I do want to talk about Upton Stout, because I do think that they came out and they tried to pick on him a little bit. And, one of the things coming into this game was Upton Stout or Chase Lucas versus Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp. And it rang true in this game, right? Jackson Smith and Jigba ran the out and up, got Upton Stout for a big play. Later in the game, there was an opportunity for Cooper Kupp to run a 4th down play, and Upton Stout got a little bit grabby. That was one of the things I actually liked about him during training camp, is he didn't do those things. He didn't grab, and he wasn't doing a lot of the rookie type stuff, the holding, the grabbing to get penalties. Unfortunately, he did in that situation, and it's going to be a learning experience for Upton Stout, because he did not have to. He did not have to hold up Cooper Kupp. That ball was 4 yards beyond the end zone. That was uncatchable football, but he did. He held him, and it gave the Seahawks a first down. That was fourth down. 49ers almost had a red zone stop on the Seahawks, lone touchdown. Like, that's how impressive this defense was when you look at it. They were one play away from holding the Seahawks to 0 touchdowns in this game, and that would have been a huge change. So Stout had a game where it wasn't pretty, it wasn't perfect, but then you saw some other times. He's right on top of Cooper Kupp. He's right on top of Jackson Smith-Njigba. They weren't able to just isolate him and completely pick on him. He was competing. He was battling. There was no moment that was too big for this kid. And I think that's why I want to give him stock up. Was it like Marquis Sigle, who stepped up and tore it up? No, it was a little bit hit and miss. But what you saw was, yes, I can see where this is going to go. I can see that this guy is going to develop into a good player. Remember, this is his first action. This should show you everything you need to know about Upton Stout. This is his first action against an NFL team that's not a teammate. He did not play against Denver or in those joint practices, the Raiders or their joint practices, the preseason game against the Chargers. No Upton Stout. He's dealing with a calf injury. He comes in and his first live rounds that he's going to have are against Jackson Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp. The dude held up. I mean, like I said, he gave up catches. Jackson Smith-Njigba got everybody in this game. Jackson Smith-Njigba is a legit number 1 wide receiver, but they limited Cooper Kupp. I mean, they really limited Cooper Kupp in this football game. It was, a game that, Kupp, his first time in Seattle, but Jackson Smith-Njigba gets 9 catches for 124 yards. And, the big play was on Renardo Green in that last drive. And, of course, that gets worked out. But other than that, the only other wide receiver to catch a football was Cooper Kupp. That's how good the 49ers secondary played. Cooper Kupp had 2 catches for 15 yards. And he had 3 targets. One of those, of course, is the penalty. Well, what about A.J. Barner, the tight end? He had 1 catch for 0 yards. You know why he had 0 yards? Because Marquis Sigle might as well have been in his hip pocket. So that is the type of thing you see. When a team goes, they have 16 receptions for 150 yards, and 40 of those yards were on an explosive where Renardo Green got beat on a double move, you tip your cap. And you say, you know what? Our secondary played pretty darn good. A secondary that included 2 rookies, including Upton Stout. And I think that's huge. Upton Stout, yes, he was going to. We've seen Deommodore Lenoir get beat by Jackson Smith-Njigba on one of those, deep fades. And he ran it out and up on Stout. But I just thought, you know what? This defense, it had to count on young guys. And I thought Upton Stout did a really good job. I'm going to give him credit. I'm going to give credit to Upton Stout for how he played in this game. Now, I'm going to talk about a veteran, another guy who's new to the 49ers. And you need guys to step up, even if they're not young. You need the other players to come in. And I think that there's been kind of a thought that he was always going to be the presumed starter at safety, and that's Jason Pennick. I thought that Pennick played well in this game. Once again, he's, not the veteran, right? He's not the captain of the secondary, but there were question marks about Jason Pennick. 1 real year starting at safety for the New York Giants. He was the number 1 blitzing safety in the NFL, but other than that, it's not like he had tremendous numbers. But he comes in this game, and he's playing alongside the rookie, Marquis Sigle, and he has 4 solo tackles in this game. 4. And he played in the preseason. I think everyone will remember this. He comes downhill, and he's got an opportunity to make a tackle in the backfield, and he wrong shoulders it, puts his head behind the guy, and misses the tackle, and people are questioning his tackling ability. And I said at the time, you can go back and watch. He's a veteran. He made a mistake. He needs to get back to tackling the correct way. He's going to fix it. And guess what? Comes in this game, takes care of business, does what he's supposed to do, and I thought that he did a really good job. And one of the 49ers' biggest question marks for this football season had to be that safety room without Malik Mustafa, without Talanoa Hufanga. And we know Mustafa is going to come back pretty soon. But I thought we got some answers. Jason Pennick did a pretty good job. Are they out of the woods? No, right? Somebody's going to find ways to test them. It's not going to be easy. But Marquis Sigle and Jason Pinnock really kind of slowed down any of those question marks about that safety room. The tackling is the big part. That's what made the 49ers so good in the early parts of that 2023 season. Hufanga and Deshaun Gibson, and 2022 even more so. They tackled everything. They made plays on the football. They just got after people. They were running around making plays, and that's what I love about this defense right now. D. Winters, Fred Warner, Luke Gifford, who had himself a pretty good game as well. Marquis Sigle, Upton Stout, Jason Pinnock, De'Amara Lenore, Renardo Green. They're out there flying around, making plays and smacking people in the face. And you got to have defensive guys that could do that. Now, I want to give some honorable mentions. I thought there were some other guys who had some pretty good moments in this game. I thought Jordan Elliott had some really good plays. Mikael Williams got triple teamed on the Nick Bosa play. The free up Bosa one-on-one. I thought that was very nice seeing the young guy, and he's going to have his moments to make some really big plays as well. CJ West flashed it in there. Kalia Davis had a big tackle for loss where he, jumped in there, beat the puller, and got in there. They expected him to follow. He did not. He came upfield, got vertical. Those are those havoc plays that we're talking about. So I'm really excited to get into the film. I'm going to be breaking all that down over on Patreon. Also, the Ant Hill Show will be available as well over there on Patreon. Lots of stuff there. There's going to be lots of stuff here all week. We're going to keep talking 49ers football, 49ers Seahawks, looking ahead at the 49ers Saints pretty soon. It's going to be a fun week. 49ers are 1-0, 1-0 in the division, equaled their win total from last year in the division already. Off to a good start. It wasn't pretty. You don't need pretty wins. Just need to win. That's what's important. You can get better. You can still get better off these wins. So I think it's going to be great. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Please give it a 5-star rating. Feel like I deserve it. This episode was brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.